Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I will. Yeah, I will invite others to join us.
Can more than
I
two
don't know,
people
it's
be on
taking
it?
like forever to have that, but whatever. I can only add one by one. I've never done this before, so sorry everyone for the time it will take to set it up, but yeah. Hello everyone, thank you for coming. I will just wave to all of you virtually and in real life. Larisa, if you can hear us, I sent you the invitation. Barbara, I'm just waiting for Lara to confirm the invitation and then I can invite you. Hello. Larisa, can you see the invitation? Oh, something happened. I don't know. I will then invite.
It's a learning curve.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's invite. Yeah. Hey!
Hi, I'm here.
Okay. Wait, this is it? I can't invite more. Invite to join. Larisa. Okay, I send you an invite again. Yeah.
Hey.
It worked. So I think that according to what I checked yesterday, the maximum amount of people that you can have at once is 4, but obviously I'm happy to have a flow. You know, if some of you feel that you want to go or you're done or whatever, let's just see how it goes. You know, I think that the only person that can't leave, unfortunately, is me because I started it. But thank you so much for joining, all of you who joined here for the talk and all of you who joined here to just
setting food.
Sorry, yeah.
Cheers.
I'm more period friendly.
You know the drill.
Yeah, but, you know, it was a very spontaneous idea that I thought, you know, there is this app, some of you may know, called Clubhouse, which is like a spontaneous talk. And I thought, well, what if we would use already what we have with Instagram? And I felt like, you know, it would be so nice to just freely and a group of women talk about the experience of periods. And I was very happy that you responded to that, and I'm very happy for you to join. And then I was even reading actually an article that a friend shared with me about the fact how important it is for women to share their experience of their period, and that actually how much it can help you with your monthly flows. And of course, I hope that we are also fighting, you know, to finally get rid of the stigma of someone just menstruating and not being able to express it freely. So thank you for joining. Any kind of thoughts or stories or ideas, please, now I give you the scene, and you can just start talking whatever you feel like.
Well, there's definitely from my side is almost 0 stories that are positive about my period. And I've noticed that I've lately have been talking about periods with friends, with girlfriends, and some women have this feeling that they go through some kind of a very like spiritual kind of thing when they're menstruating. And I don't relate to it at all. I think it's just like the biggest inconvenience to me, because also I'm not planning to have children. And so it's been actually part of like conversation with my friends. And it's just interesting how all of us kind of experience it very different, and we take something from it, one way or the other. For me, if I could leave it and never have it again, that would be just blessing. But I also see that some women actually feel really connected to that cycle, and especially if they're also planning to have children, and you know, it becomes really part of your like part of your daily kind of, I don't know, routine and stuff. So yeah.
I think that's actually really interesting. The point that you bring up is that I think, especially in certain circles, there's been so much movement recently around sort of discussing periods more openly and getting rid of the stigma, and you know how empowering it is to be in touch with your cycle and finding out sort of everything about your hormones that we were never taught. And actually, there should also be an emphasis on like, yeah, but like some people still should be allowed to just like really dislike the whole experience, because it can be really painful. Or some people, you know, don't experience their period, you know, for whatever reason it is. And so that can also make them feel a bit alienated from that experience, whether it's because, you know, they just don't physically get it, or because of IUD, or whatever reason it is. I do think that it is quite interesting to remember that, you know, talking about periods should just make the topic less taboo, but doesn't mean that it has to be something that you connect with incredibly and feel this like, you know, sort of really close and intimate connection with.
Or have this crazy fascination in terms of like be positive about it. I cannot be positive about it because I'm in incredible pain every month. Like it's hard to be in tune and take something positive from something that really literally hurts and takes away half of my months where I'm not able to function, because obviously we know, like, you know, the first week, like before the period starts, like the 7 days before, like you're just going through crazy hormonal changes, you eating crap, you know, going nuts. Then the period comes, and then all the pain, and then finally the last day of your period, the first week of after your period is ending, you just have this like crazy energy. But really, like for 2 weeks, I'm just like out of order, like I cannot do anything, and it's like
Yeah, I can totally relate to what you were saying, actually. I was actually just talking with a friend, like, hey, how are you feeling? Like, I feel alive, because today was my last day of my period. Like, I'm alive again.
Yeah.
Because I was feeling so shitty, and also, like, this sense of, like, oh, I've been yesterday for 4 hours in my bed. Like, actually, when I was talking with Monika, she was like, oh, do you want to have the live? And I was like, yes, please, because I've been for 4 hours in my bed. I can't stand up, and I feel like I should be able to stand up and do something. And at the same time, I was like, okay, just be a bit kind to yourself because you got your period. I was like, yeah, but why do it have to be every month? And sometimes, like, I really try to remember to be kind to myself, but sometimes it's also this thing is not fair because I had so much to do. And
just
it messes
quickly,
also with the whole
sorry,
system.
I wanted to read Kiana. Thank you for joining. She just wrote, oh, for everyone that is here, should you ever have problems getting your period and other symptoms, check out PCO. Lots of doctors don't know and don't share it as an issue, but it's good to know. So thanks for sharing that.
Thank you, Kiana. Always full of so many cool tips.
Yeah. Also, if you have any questions or something that you would want us to discuss, just feel free to put it in the comments. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No, all good. And it's actually very interesting because I have so many friends that lately have come to me about not having the periods and how they stressed they are. And also lately I've been feeling this pattern of friends that they just felt, I don't know, because it's lockdown and you have to stay home and maybe you like live with your partner or in a VK and it's more like masculine energy and you just feel very contract. And I was with a friend the other day and I just spent the whole day talking with her. It's like, oh, actually, I feel like my period is coming because now I feel like I can talk about things that we're holding here. And yeah, it's good just to talk about it again because it exists and it is hard when you just keep it for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it's interesting because this article that I was just referring at the beginning from Guardian is talking about the issue that menstrual cycles during the pandemic have gone haywire. And basically how the constant stress that women are in, regardless of basically your situation, because it might be that you're just stuck at home with a small kid, or you might be just worried about your job, you know, that you might not have it the other day, or you're a freelancer and you got, you know, you lost the ways of making money, etc. So there are like, I mean, everywhere around you kind of read about the fact how women are disproportionately more affected by everything that happened in the pandemic. And of course, in a way, it's like a no-brainer that it's going to affect our menstrual cycles, but why is it not in the news? You know? Like when you think about it, that 800 million people menstruate every day. This is like, it's not something small, you know. There's a group of 800 million people that go through this every day. So
think it's still kind of, I mean, we're working on it. Obviously, we're all trying to kind of expose that this should be a normal part of conversations. Like, this shouldn't be a taboo. But I even noticed from myself when only in the last maybe year and a half that I'm actually posting things and actually talk about my moods and about my pain and things I go through. And I do post just a little bit more often, but even though it's been almost like a year and a half that I'm sharing this story, I still, every time I click send in order to post a story or you know, I feel a little nervous. I feel kind of like, oh, like, I shouldn't be talking. It's like a private thing. But, like, no, it's not a private thing because all women go through this. And also it affects us in, you know, many different ways. I cannot function. I cannot work. Thank goodness I'm a freelancer and I'm able to just lay in my bed for 4 days. But so many women don't have this opportunity, right?
Exactly.
So to talk about it and bring a little bit more awareness that this is a normal thing. And we should be aware and shouldn't be scared to talk about it next to men. Or, you know, lately I've been kind of, some of my clients also follow me on my Instagram where I obviously very openly talk about these body issues and periods and things like that. And there were times where I just kind of felt a little like, oh, like, this could maybe see me this way. But reality is I cannot work. Sorry, buddy. I'm going through some painful time. You're going to have to wait. And if you're looking at my story, then I'm glad you're getting educated. So
exactly. And do you feel that like the pandemic influenced your personal, like, and I'm talking both on like the physical side of the periods, but also like emotional side? Do you think that it changed the way you experience periods?
Actually, from my side, no, I don't. Actually, I haven't noticed that. I think maybe I was late. Like, usually I'm really on the date. Like, I'm really kind of, my calendar is always super correct when my period starts. And no, I'm very, very lucky. My husband is super, super gentle and an incredible soul. So he really has seen me in 9 years now how much pain I can be. I've gone to hospitals because of it, which is like a whole nother story where doctors just completely belittle your pain.
And you have been checked for endometriosis?
Yes, so I actually have fibroids. So like, I guess it's like fibroids or whatever. I'm not sure. Maybe it has evolved. I haven't actually gone to a doctor lately, so I need to actually check myself. But one of the reasons I actually don't go to doctors so often is because you tell them that you're in pain, and instead of for them to wanting to investigate what's happening to you and find the like actual core reason, they just give you painkillers. So I'm on painkillers every month. Every 6 hours on the dot, I have to make sure that I take my ibuprofen, or I take my I forget the other one that I take, naproxen, which is really good for anyone who's in Germany. Naproxen is like the best thing for it. But the moment I miss it, I can, you know, basically go to a hospital from dehydration because the pain is so bad. But no, this time it hasn't really affected me so much. My husband is very good about taking care of me those times.
You, Barbara?
Well, this was a special time. I mean, we were talking about the other day. I think also the stress and everything that happened this lockdown, it wake up the Hashimoto on me. So I have this under thyroid problem, and oh my God, like when I'm on my period, it's just been horrible, because when you have the thyroid under function, like your hormones go crazy. I shake from my hands, or sometimes I just have like really blubs of memory. And I felt really sad in the other day as well, because I was on my period and I was trying to cook dinner, and I just had like my head the constant day going like woo, and my period and my back and all the body felt like it was in constant pain. And I'm very like, I'm gonna go through it. I have to do this, I have to do that. And my dad called me like, what, did your daughter didn't got fixed? And I was like, no, my daughter didn't got fixed. I have more stuff to do. But what the fuck? I was like, oh, I was like, I think I'm panicking now. Like, I have to put the phone down. Like, I can't cook my dinner. I can't listen to you at the same time. I don't know what's happening. And my hands are shaking. And I was like sitting like, this is just the period. But it's annoying. Also, how to make the other people feel, you know, like the people that are around you. Right now, I live alone, but I lived with people before, and it can be a shock.
Yeah. What about you, Elena?
Yeah, I think mine, it hasn't been so affected, I guess, like my cycle, but I think my awareness of it has been affected because I've been at home basically for a year. And I think before it was very much just something that I would deal with in the most practical way possible. You know, it's like, okay, I need to go to work every single day. My productivity level needs to be the same because I work in an office. So it's just very much like, yeah, take a painkiller before you go into work, just deal with your day, come home, crash when I had my period. Whereas I think this year I've just been able to experience it totally differently because I've been at home. I've sort of tried different methods, you know, like period underwear and things that I never felt comfortable doing.
Period underwear is so good.
Right? I know, like,
I'm wearing it right now. It's nice. I actually posted about it yesterday. I got so many bad messages, like, what the fuck are you doing? Are you crazy?
What?
Like, especially for men, it's like, why are you showing a period underwear? And it's like, are you,
that's
like,
why
only
we're doing
you?
this talk, girl.
yes.
I got also text from a guy from school, like, only you. Like, you were always, like, the crazy one. I was like, that's what I'm here for.
I don't know why that's crazy. Like, why is that is considered to be crazy? I don't get it.
Well, no one has any problem with, like, lingerie being worn.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and I'm like, this is practical underwear. It's basically tech.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just...
I haven't tried it. I've been kind of like a bit, I'm actually a little sad now that you guys are talking about all these new things that you tried because you were at home. So it's like perfect way to, test it. But I still haven't done it. I think it's because I just focus so much on not being in pain that any other like new element to my period routine is like just feels really kind of big. And just trying to get through and breathe and just, go with the flow of where my body kind of takes me. But I really do regret it. Maybe I should do it since we're still stuck in lockdown for another few months probably. Right.
For me, the discovery of the lockdown was the menstrual cup. I felt like I finally have time to try it. Like I wasn't like, because I was always scared, like what if I would need to change it when I'm at work or something,
It's not office friendly.
Yeah, but I just had this like fear that like, oh, what if? And then there was a lockdown and I didn't have any excuse basically. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And I think that I even shared in my stories like the horror story of the first trying to take the cup out and it's just gone.
I had that nightmare. It got locked. I thought I had to go to the emergency room, but everyone now tells me the same. At the time I didn't tell anyone exactly. And I had to ask my ex-boyfriend to take it out of me because my fingers just not go that far. And bless him, like he was super easy with his stuff and he was like totally fine, but
I love this period cup chronicles.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, then I think that it was, but it's also like so crazy, that the period cups were like I read that they first time that they discovered something like period cup was in 1930s, like before the Second World War,
Oh wow.
And then like they just didn't put it into production because it makes more money for the companies to produce tampons or pads because you constantly have to buy them, and when you buy a period cup you can use it for 10 years.
Yeah, of course.
So it's kind of clear that how many tampons you would have to use in the time of 10 years. So, and you would have to buy and buy and buy and buy. So, and with that obviously comes all the knowledge of like how to use it. I've learned that you have to bear it down and just relax, and obviously when you're in a panic state it's not going to come out.
but it's once again because we don't talk about it. Now if I was to listen to this and was like, okay, when I get my first cup, I know that this might happen.
Yeah.
What steps should I take? And also don't freak out, but like with so many things with being, sort of a woman, it's like you discover it and you're like, oh, I must be the first person this has ever happened to because I've never heard this happen to anyone. But actually then, listening to everyone, and since then my friends, talk about their experience with the cup, it's like everybody just thinks it's like lost. Somewhere in the uterus.
I just learned so much. Like I already know what to do. Like just conversation. I love it.
And if you panic, you can always text a girlfriend and be like,
Yes.
this happened. Like, can I talk to you about it?
Monica, expect a call from me next month. Because I know that you're a pro at this, but I actually wanted to get back to the question that you had for us about what we discovered about period or whatever while being in lockdown. And actually, one thing does stand out to me is this was the kind of moment where, first of all, I discovered that I have to take baths when I have my period, and when the pain is kind of bad and I'm waiting for the pill to work, I have to take a bath. So that, and it was a friend of mine through Instagram, just like Instagram friend, who recommended this, and so I did it. But the thing that was really unusual is I had to get comfortable with the blood, like you in the bathtub, and actually just the knowledge that you're bleeding and the actual, you know, the liquidity and kind of like realizing this is blood. It's a weird concept to kind of feel okay with, at least for me, because it's always been kind of stigmatized and told that it's dirty and gross and it's just everywhere in society, any society. And so getting used to and kind of feeling kind of like, it's fine. This is my body. Like, this is literally from my body. Like, why am I so disgusted by it? And the taking baths really like made me kind of embrace it and feel okay that if I'm in this warm bath and I'm bleeding, like it's fine. It's not gross.
I love that.
But that's such a big problem, like with the stigma of period blood being dirty, you know. It's crazy because when you cut yourself, I don't know, as a kid or even when you're an adult, like you're not immediately like, oh, you know, oh, this dirty blood coming out of me. So, but it's the same type of blood. There's like nothing different about it when it comes out of your vagina. It's just cultural. That basically, and I also even read a nice comparison that like when in culture, because it's a separate topic about like losing virginity and bleeding and like how this is also basically a myth about a woman always bleeding when she loses virginity. But you know, when the bleeding happened because of a penis invasion into a vagina, then it's a reason to, you know, put up the sheets and celebrate. Whoa, you know, whoa, yeah, celebration. But when the same thing would happen just because of a monthly flow, that a woman would bleed on her sheets, it's suddenly like, don't show it to anyone.
Yeah, I mean, we're so removed from the process, you know. Even you were talking about you know, in the bath, like reconnecting, like sort of with what it actually even looks like. I think for me that was the big thing with the cup, is that with tampons, especially because I grew up really with the applicator tampons, you know, like you're so removed, you know, you don't even put your fingers anywhere near it. You're just like, and it goes in, you take it out and chuck
I
it
actually
away.
never wear tampons because of that, because I couldn't put my finger up there. I was like, not wearing this. I just want it out.
And I think for me, with the cup, it would be like, just for the first time, I was like, oh, this is how much there is, or this is what it looks like, or like, why is it brown? Why is it deep red? And kind of how you bleed in your cycle too, and just connecting and just finding it so gross at first when I began, because I was just like, I didn't want anything to do with it.
But it's interesting because it's actually knowledge. Like when you actually look at the kind of blood that you have, whatever stage of your period, right, whichever day of the cycle you're in, it actually tells you very important things about your health and about, like, you know, which day you're on, like what's happening biologically with your body, you know. Same thing with like if you have like too big of like clots or things like that are not usually really good, or, you know, you can learn I think a lot from just kind of not being scared of it.
Also, I feel that like if you're using the, well, let's say old school methods like tampons or pads, you usually get to experience this blood being like a couple of hours old within a structure that already, you know, like it started biologically being active in some way, which doesn't happen in a menstrual cup. So it also gets a certain like darker color, kind of brownish color. It starts to, you know, smell differently.
And
whereas
smell,
like I was so surprised when I took out my cup like for the first time and I saw this like beautiful red color filled, you know, the cup, and I was like, wow, I created paint. And it was so different from like, you know, the look of on a pad that's like a couple of hours old. And because obviously you're bleeding all the time, you never really see the fresh blood coming into the pad, like unless it's like, you know, seconds after you put it a new pad, but you usually don't look immediately after you put it, like how it looks like. So
and I also feel the pads are so uncomfortable and somehow not hygienic at all, because I don't know, I just get always rashes with it. My skin was always very sensitive. I used to have a lot of cysts, especially like because of hair removal and all this stuff. So it would just create more cysts and more friction.
Yeah.
And
I am the pad girl, just so that you know.
Sure.
Like, because for me, I cannot wear tampons. Tampons really kind of, they actually end up giving me more cramps and hurt me quite a lot. Yeah. But I think the reason why I want to try the cup is because it, like, you know, Monika, you mentioned it kind of lets you kind of free floating kind of feeling where it's just going into the cup, but it's not holding it kind of up to, you know, it doesn't kind of clog whatever
of course.
It's supposed to happen. But for me, like pads, I kind of have to, because I usually kind of have really heavy periods. And for me, that's the feeling of like if you're wearing a period underwear, right? For me, I feel like
exactly. That's why I love the period underwear so much now, because I could only wear pads. I never really wear tampons, only when I was in high school, but then we really had to. As like which was also really hard because like it was a ballet classical education. So also like we couldn't stop, like having a period was not an option to keep going, or pain, you know, you wanted to keep going to classes. And also it was really crazy because you feel bloated, but they don't really allow you to feel bloated. And you're always like checking up if the thing was there. So once I left high school and I left like the ballet education, I was like, I'm not wearing tampons anymore. I just want this to flow out of me.
You were like traumatized in some ways. Like it's a little bit of a trauma with the tampons. Wow,
Was that just in high school, or like was it from like the moment you got your period you were like forced to wear these tampons?
No. Only in high school, because when I was 15 I started to train to be like professional ballet dancer. So we were like having dance classes from morning to dawn. And you know, you just it was just the best way to exercise, because when you have a pad then you have to change it more often, or you can move and you don't want to have blood. But no, like in the beginning I only wore pads as a kid, because actually I started menstruating with 11, which was also quite early.
Actually curious, like what are the cultural kind of habits? Like for instance, I grew up half in Russia and half in America, and when I started my period I was in Russia, and the first thing that was, you know, that I had to use was pads, kind of, you know, like that was the thing that we had around. But then I remember moving to US, and pads were just like something so gross and looked down on. So every teenager, like any girl who started period, like automatically was introduced to tampons right away. That if they are too, you know, I don't know, sometimes you don't have room in there. Like some women can be really like, get really sensitive. It really hurts and gives me really a lot of pain, because I get really bloated and kind of expands. So those were like such two different cultural things. Have you guys experienced that from places?
I had a moment in my life, because I never really.
I'm listening. I'm just
I was
getting my
kind
charger.
of afraid of tampons, and I think that also because of my mom and the gynecologist I would go to. Like my gynecologist was always very wary of the tampons, and actually, like even today, I read that, you know, the general production tampons can have so many chemicals in them that it's actually can be super, you know, harmful for the very delicate balance of your vagina, you know. So like basically everyone that's watching us and you're using tampons, which obviously it's totally fine, just make sure that you're using like really good quality, and hopefully also organic cotton, because there are so much shit that can go into a tampon and then you're just inserting it into your body. So please make sure that you're using like tampons. But back to the story, it's just that, you know, so I was always a pad girl, but at some point I felt ashamed because all of my friends would use tampons, because this was like the sexy way, you know, not like an ugly pad that you would have to glue to your panties, and like you had no, even the slim ones, like
And you couldn't wear like a thong or anything. You had to wear like
yeah, basically, you know. So,
ooh, the worst fucking decade.
Yeah, and I remember that I was kind of like I stick to it, even though I felt a bit like, you know, I'm the grandma, but you know, because I even once tried tampons and I just felt like I think that I'm too dry to use tampons in some way, that like my periods are not as heavy, and I just like after that I'm bleeding kind of slowly, and then I just like the tampon just like, you know, takes all the moist from my vagina, and then it's like a like, I don't know.
Wow.
That's like, a visual.
Almost like cleaning the toilet, you know, with the brush.
Oh.
Like,
oh my. Welcome.
I remember taking it
live.
Yeah, so that's my pad versus tampon. Sorry.
Yeah, actually back then, if I remember, there was a lot of people in the beginning that in school didn't want to wear tampons because it was the story you might lose your virginity.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. It's like, and I was like, okay, what the fuck does it matter right now?
I'll
But
just close the window because someone decided to vacuum. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, maybe that's better. Yeah. Elena, what's your experience?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I experienced sort of any, I'm trying to think like just cultural differences, because I've lived in like France and then my university is in Canada, in Montreal. And I don't think I noticed like a difference between the two places and like what was sort of acceptable or like commonplace. But then again, I don't feel like I really talked at all with anyone about my period until I was maybe like 20 or something. Like when I think about my experience before that, I don't think I was talking with my girlfriends. I definitely wasn't talking with my boyfriends about it. Not really with my family. So yeah, I feel like I only really started paying attention once I got off the pill, age maybe like 22 or something. Yeah. And I'd been on the pill since I was 15. So that whole period of my life was just not, I had very low, like very small periods, and I didn't pay any attention to it. In fact, often I would take my pill, you know, consecutively so that I would skip periods. Yes. Because I was, you know, under the impression that like if I was, you know, dating someone or, you know, I had to like not have my period when I was going to meet up with him or these types of things that we're sort of taught to believe when we're young. So yeah, I don't think I could really speak so much for like what was commonplace when I was younger, because it really was not a topic that I ever discussed more than like cramps. You know, pain is the only part that's ever discussed publicly. Yeah, it's just the pain. Yeah, though I must say that also I think
why are you being a bitch?
Until like around a year ago, I always, especially like in a non-private setting, I would still find a different excuse for my menstrual pain, because I always had menstrual pains. And but I didn't feel comfortable even at work, like saying like, hey, I don't feel good, like not maybe to my girlfriends, but like if I would have to go early home or something, you know, then I would say like, oh, I'm just not feeling well. And then I read in one of the books about period that the author said like how crazy it is that on average women even prefer to say that they have shitting issues, which basically, you know, boils down to like, oh, my stomach is upset or something, then admit that they have their period. Like, this is how crazy the society is. You know, you would rather complain about your shit than about your period. So yeah, at some point I decided to stop, and right now I'm just openly saying like, hey, I have cramps, like, you know. Yeah, that's why I'm not feeling great.
I saw someone ask that, I think, on your post. Someone asked about like what should you say to your, you know, your boss, or is it appropriate, you know, to say the real reason and things. I thought that was a really interesting question, because I think it so depends on, you know, just how close you are, or like how
although comfortable you are at work. You know, just to say that like I'm not feeling well because of my menstruation, it's such like a emotionally, you know, detached answer, and it's also close to truth. Like I feel that since I read also in the book that like I will later also maybe write a newsletter or something that we can combine all those resources together. It's a book by Emma Barnett, and she talks there that basically there is no other way than like of getting rid of the period stigma other than starting just by openly saying that you're on your period and not lying about your period. Because she claims that this is like the first step that has to be done, that there will be no one else that would just start doing it unless women start, and everyone that menstruate would start just be open about it and say like, hey, yeah, I'm having my menstruation right now. This is the reason why I'm in pain. I'm not feeling well, or whatever, you know.
But I have an opinion about that too. I feel like that when if you do actually say this to, at least I've had it in the past where I had to mention this to some of my bosses who were men. And the thing that I would always get, I would not get in trouble. I would start talking about it and like, okay, no, that's fine. Don't worry. You don't have to worry. That's fine. And you just wouldn't want to hear anything about it. But just the moment you say, well, I have my period cramps, or you know, and right away they would just, or I would say monthly pain, or I don't remember how.
The day. Having the day. I like that in German, die Tage. I got the day.
I got the day, yeah. And they would just kind of cut you off, which I actually don't necessarily think that is such a terrible thing, because obviously they understand that this is a particular special time for women that they go through. So yes, can it be approached from a men's perspective in a little bit more, I don't know, respectful way where they can actually let you finish the sentence? Yes. But still, the fact that they are able to, they're able to understand it and say, hey, don't worry, just, you know, you don't have to come to work. It's okay. I'm not going to punish you for that. That's kind of something, I think. I mean,
yeah, of course. Irene wrote a message. I once messaged my boss that I can't come to work because my period started, and she was okay with it. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
That's very sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do feel that right now it's so much easier for me to be on my period when I don't have to go to work in a 9-to-5 schedule. Like, I know that it was one of the reasons why I got on the pill in the first place, because during the time of my period, I'm like, literally there are days that I just have to be in bed. And if it's not like, I think that I don't have it as bad as you, Larisa, but there are still like in the day, there might be, I don't know, 2 hours that I just have to lie down. And, you know, it's what is also crazy that basically the more stressed I get about the environment and the fact that I'm not like able to relax and just let my body menstruate, the worse the cramps become. And as like the moment I have the peace of mind and some quiet place that I can just lie down, it's like, you know, as if my body was literally like telling me like lie the fuck down, you know, and then I lie down and it's like,
calm down.
Now we're good. Now we're good.
Our body tells us so much, and we just like, I don't know, because of these stigmas, it's not that we choose to ignore it, but we kind of forced to ignore it, and it'll be nice to just have the possibility of also going with the flow of things, because our body doesn't go the same every time or every day, and it's just not period. There's a lot of factors around, and sometimes we have such a strict schedules that now as well with lockdown, I understand that having more time at home or for yourself, you actually start to honor more your own like cycles. I'm not just talking about period, but anything that you go through. And I was actually reading something the other day. It was like a funny analogy, like a woman bleeds this and this amount of blood when they are in a period. This equals if someone had cut an arm and was like constantly bleeding for I don't know how many hours, and they still go to work and they still do this, and they sometimes don't say nothing about it. Would you go to work with your arm open and just keep on like going through it? It's like, oh, I'm fine, all good. So
it's like, it sounds extreme, but it's in some, I mean, it's very true in some cases. It's true. Like, but one of my really good friends said something really awesome the other day. We were talking about this connection to your cycle and to periods and stuff. And for me, it's kind of, I'm a very much of like a realist. I'm not a spiritual person, even though I grew up religious, but I'm an atheist. So I'm a very much like a blunt and blank kind of like, I like facts, right? But the one thing that she kind of pointed out when she talked about this connection to your period and how she feels so empowered by it was the fact that women, like, we're learning how to deal with our emotions, with listening to our body, to go through this pain and all of these kind of terrible changes that happen within our body every month. So we are stronger. We are more prepared in general for life. Like, we don't go and shoot people because we're going through a bad day. And that totally makes sense, because it's true. All the pain that I go through every month, if my husband doesn't do fucking dishes one day, it doesn't kill me. Like, but he can react to it much stronger, maybe, if I did something or whatever.
Yeah.
He's a super gentle guy, but, you know, we know that men have a little bit of harder time sometimes to deal with emotions and, you know, or even. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know if you guys relate to that.
Elena, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have so much to say on, like, like, men not showing the right amount of emotion, but I'm not gonna.
Don't get her started.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. So, but without going into that too much, I feel like I totally lost my train of thought after that.
No problem.
Going into, I was just like thinking of just like.
No, but you know, I also
boys,
recently
like,
started reading a book that is not in a spiritual way, but just kind of a factual way, advising every woman to just observe their cycles. And like she says, that you can start with a very simple, just writing down one word, that how you feel on the day of your cycle, you know. And I felt that it's really, like, in a way, revolutionary, because she says that we are used to, in our culture, to basically treat women and men equally, but we are not biologically, obviously, equal. And women go through waves, like, much more than men throughout every month. And she said that it's just for your own good, kind of, that you can, you know, when you start mapping out your cycle, you will know that, you know, then there is, for example, this 2-week period. I mean, if, like Larisa, you have very hard periods, and maybe this is the time when you don't want to plan anything big, because you're going to be, you know, in this, like, inward focus, or even in pain, you know, etc.
Yeah.
And even like myself being a photographer, you know, there are probably some days that it's better for me to have a photo shoot, and there are days that are worse for me to have a photo shoot. And I shouldn't actually go against it, just thinking that, like, oh, you know, whatever, I can push through. Like, why not? I could actually track myself and see, you know, how my body responds to the cycle of hormones inside it, and then just adjust whatever I'm doing, if I can, obviously, to how this is going. So I felt that this is really helpful for me.
But I think
that's actually a very good idea.
I think also one sort of really interesting point with that is that the cycle, or like the period, is always focused in our culture around the actual period.
Yeah.
You know, like 1 week or 2 weeks, 5 days, however long it is, where you're bleeding, and not around the rest of the cycle, which is just as important, and is actually the funner part, you know. Because, like, ovulation, I didn't know anything really about ovulation, because I've never tried for kids or needed to know about it, sort of from a medical standpoint. But discovering, you know, there's this whole period of my cycle where I'm just better equipped for life.
Yeah,
you know, like,
Good
I was
way.
reading this article even about how your faces, like some of the molecules in your face, rearrange themselves a tiny bit during ovulation, during your cycle, to actually make you look better in ovulation. Like,
I think
make you
I'm
more attractive, and it makes your lips slightly redder and your cheeks slightly sort of more like
plump.
Yeah, and like a bit pinker, you know, kind of making you look like you can carry a baby, basically, you know. So you're like, your body goes into this full
bloom,
baby making, essentially, like mood, where it just makes you more outgoing, more social, more able to take sort of bigger decisions, you know, ask for raises, like all these crazy things that you could sort of assimilate between your hormones and your job and your sort of productivity.
Yeah.
And I think that's super interesting because I was always focused on like how little I could get done on my period, but not actually about what I should be doing differently in the rest of the month. And I think that was a whole revelation that I discovered through, you know, my own research, because I feel like no one or very few people are talking in the mainstream about the rest of your cycle.
Of course, I really love this author of this book, Maisie Hill. She actually uses comparison to seasons, and she calls it like, you know, the time around your period, because it already starts with the PMS if you're experiencing it, or like the days that are leading towards the first day of your period. That she calls it, this is like the winter time when you're kind of retracted, you know, you're more inwards, like your energy is more focused on your own body rather than, you know, getting out and meeting people and being social, etc. And then you go through spring, and then the ovulation is the summer, you know, like I'm here to party. And then
that's what it is. It's not wine. You telling me that this is not the wine that makes me feel happy? Okay.
After all, I don't need to spend so much money and drinks.
No, I mean, of course, the wine is fine in any season.
It helps,
you know. And then you go through autumn and winter, etc. So I feel that this is also a very nice way to think about it.
That's actually really interesting. Now I want to know more about this. Like, okay, these is my days that I'm doing my projects and I'm giving my classes. Next week is my vacation week, so just let me be alone. But it's an interesting way to check it, that you also have like your eating cycle. So when you digest food, and I remember also a couple of months ago when I had problems with my pancreas, my doctor also recommended do the diary of like how much time it takes you to digest, so which food makes you feel better, how you feel tired, you feel energetic with this type of food and that one, and just start to understand for yourself how does it go. So for the period it makes total sense as well.
It's a lot of like, I really do feel kind of grateful because you guys have mentioned like this year, like we really were able to pay attention to our bodies because we're really just kind of alone, or, you know, just always in the house. We're not distracted by events or things that we have to do in the way. But it's a lot of work to trying to like really kind of track and filter out things that are good, things that are bad, things that they're bad, but they taste so good and they make me happy.
But that's also healthy. That makes you happy in the end.
I think so too. This is why I'm not size 2, but size like much bigger. Because I think happiness over, you know,
of course,
not happiness is just, even if it's healthy, but there's a balance like it. But it is a lot of work to try to track these things, and we have to be so in tune and like really listen to our bodies. And I think that's a great, and I've only gotten a chance to do it now that I'm actually in my late 30s now. I'm 37, and for most of my life going through all these different changes, like I just didn't have a time to just stop and think about it. And maybe one of the reasons so many stupid things happen, you know, like we have relationships, like we have breakups, terrible, you know, situations or whatever, where we feel so guilty about things, but we don't know why. And I feel like if I just knew my body as much as I know my body now, back then, I mean, I would just take over the world. I would just do everything in the last day of my period of that week. And, you know, I would just
take it serious. And I think that also comes from also the lack of education. We were talking this the other day, and actually Monika was really surprised that we actually have sexual classes in Portugal, and we have to have classes about our periods, and they actually offer the girls like a pad kit with everything you will need for your period. And I remember like the first time we had it, they actually called one of the boys and they put a pad in his hand and they taught everyone how to place a pad. But they asked him to do it because they say you guys also should know. And this was about when we were 14, which was really cool and was really nice. And that's actually when I started to understand a bit more, because actually I got my period when I was 11. And it was actually a very interesting story because I woke up in the morning, I had this brown thing on my underwear. And my reaction was go to my mom's cabinet, take her pad and go to school and not say anything the whole day, because I didn't know what was happening and I know it was getting dirty. And then come home and show it to my mom's like, what is this? And she's like, that's period. And I was like, where did you find that? I was like, on your like cabinets. Okay, you understood how it works? And I said, yes. And she's like, okay. I was like, okay. I was like, fine.
Never talk about it again.
Oh, wow.
That's done. But then in school, I think it really helped to understand, you know, they really explain how the body works and the ovulation and how the egg travels, because they had to explain all the things. So we also understood we could just not be fucking around with our condoms. But you know, it was really nice to have this class, and I think we could even go deeper on it, because a lot of people still have the stigma. And I remember, I don't know, sometimes, you know, you have your bag open and maybe like your nécessaire, like the thing where you have your pads and everything is open, and like, oh, it's open. I was like, yeah, I wear them. Like I need them.
I still feel weird about it. I still feel weird about it. I don't know why. Like, it's such a weird thing to, like, fight your own, like, these terrible habits. And it's not like my mom would, like, ever taught me to be this way. Like, it wasn't really, like, that she would say, oh, you don't talk about periods. No, like, it was kind of a normal kind of thing. Yeah. But just society around, like, everyone was just so used to doing what they should be and should not be doing. And for women, that meant you don't talk about your period, you don't show things. Everything has to be super private because it's your private. And I still deal with this habit of, like, feeling shy because I have a pad that fell out of my purse. How weird.
Yeah. I think it takes a lot to deconstruct.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I mean, I don't know if you've heard or read about this short article that Gloria Steinem wrote in 1978, so it was a while ago, but it was called "If Men Could Menstruate," and it's so hilarious. You know, like, she starts it with,
they would not do anything.
Yeah, like, men would brag about how long and how much. Of course. And then there's also, like, I just wrote like 2 excerpts from that. Generals, right-wing politicians, and religious fundamentalists would cite menstruation as proof that only men could serve God and country in combat.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
I love that.
I really recommend reading it all.
Oh, please, like, write it down.
So
I want to read that now.
Yeah.
That sounds so funny. Oh
I gotta cheers to that. My God.
Yeah.
We would definitely have way, way better resources than tampons that don't list what chemicals they have in them in the 21st
Absolutely. I actually, that brings me back to that little, like, short story that I was telling earlier, like, in the beginning of our life, is one of the times I went to a hospital because I was in so much pain. I was dehydrated. My body was just giving up, and it was due to my period pains. And that was a few days before I was turning 30. And so I had to tell my husband, or he was my boyfriend at the time, to call 911. And so the ambulance came. I went to the hospital. They gave me some, like, anti-nausea. They gave me some painkillers. And then finally, actually, the doctor said, okay, I think I'm going to do, like, an ultrasound to see if everything is okay. Yeah. But I will never forget that I was in so much pain. Like, I was just white. I was, like, I don't know, gray color. I was like, there was no life in me. And then he does the ultrasound, and then when he comes back at the end and tells me, kind of, he has this report in front of him, he says, yeah, like, your potassium levels are kind of low, you just need a banana or something. Also, like, just a little bit.
Banana?
Like, just a little bit. It's not a big deal. Just small little thing, fine. And I was just wondering, like, how can you tell me that they're just this small little, not a big deal, since I'm literally laying here where you had to give me morphine, you have to give me anti-nausea. They had to use a bit, I think, 3 bags of IV to rehydrate me, and you belittling what, like, condition that you just discovered about. I was in shock. Like, that completely killed it for me. Like, to go to any male doctor, I don't know. I also have issues with female doctors, actually, as well. Had so many inappropriate gynecologists. Like, don't even get me started, and especially in Russia. But still, like, this, like, how can you believe it? I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I think that's a very common experience I've heard from people who have, you know, endometriosis or PCOS or any sort of, like, understudied hormonal imbalance or anything like that. I think, so, you know, so many of my friends or people, you know, that I follow on Instagram, you know, it was like a 10-year journey of them having experiences very similar to yours, you know, like being on the bathroom floor because I was in a place, you know, with tiles, so they like, because they had fever and like
that's me.
them off.
Yep.
And like so much blood, you know, more blood than they should, and like excruciating pain, and just having these traumatic experiences with doctors.
Yep.
Yeah.
Either not believing them or believing their pain, but not offering up any solutions, you know, just being like, as you said, painkillers. And I think it really does go to show how stigmatized this is, like how periods are in society, that even doctors have not been taught or given the wherewithal to like at least just be sympathetic and empathetic.
Sorry, we have a question from the audience. Sabora asked, what about horniness before and during menstruation?
That's the thing.
I relate. I think we all relate.
It helps a lot with the cramps. I feel like it's like you're not gonna do it the hardcore shit, but like it just helps like with releasing of the muscles. And I mean, maybe not in the first day, because I don't know, I feel bloated, I feel depressed, and everything around me is ugly, and I just like, don't touch me. But then next day I'm like, just love me and hug me and do something.
I love that how dancer you are, like hugging yourself, and it's like an art form for you. I love that. Yeah, it's like a dance of pain. I think actually, for me, I definitely go through it. I think I go through it like right before my period, and then maybe like through the middle and end of my period. But to me, I think the best relief is, well, besides painkillers, actually more of a masturbation than actual act of sex, because like we're all different, like in which way we get pleasure from, right? Some of us from the inside, some of us, you know, have to have the combination of the outer and inner. And for me, mostly it's the outer. So for me, it's like, I want to be really left alone. Like, don't, like, honey, I love you, but just like, don't exist for 3 or 4 days. just give me my hot bottle and leave me alone.
And my vibrator.
Exactly.
I haven't tried it, but also I feel like it's just too messy in those times. I don't know.
I don't know. I like my penguin.
There was a really interesting study that I saw. I don't know if you know the female company. They're like Berlin-based like period product company. So they do, you know, like pads and tampons, and they actually put out a group study where they teamed up with a sex toy company. I think it was Wow or something, basically, and they wanted 1,000, I think 500 or 1,000 female participants. And they were going to get sent a sex toy, and you had to you had homework. You had to masturbate during your period with the sex toy, but record how it affected your cramps.
Wow,
that's really nice.
Sorry to just interrupt you, but I just got a message that there's only 1:43 seconds remaining, so like 1 minute, because Instagram allows only 1 hour of live. So
we have there's this very sweet comment that maybe we should mention.
Yeah, you can read it.
Okay. So one of our watchers said, it's so interesting, a male watcher. It's so interesting to hear from you guys, given that the men have no idea about most of these things. So we appreciate you guys sharing it. So thank you, Arif, for listening to us and for spreading the information to your fellow bros.
And let me know if you enjoyed it. Also, I enjoyed it a lot, and then maybe we can just have, you know, a monthly chat.
Please, I'm here for it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Enjoy your Sunday, and take care.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.